3. Here we go on a Tuesday. This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Joy Taylor is joining me. What a day today. Peter King, Greg Cosell, Jarrett Bell, and Ty Law will be joining us. Okay, tomorrow we show up and work. And then we just don't show up and work for like 4 days. Then it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's for most people. That's starting to be around the schedule.
Yeah.
Unless you work in retail, in which case you will be working.
My daughter's coming home from college, get to hang out.
Ah, that's exciting.
It's very exciting for me. So I was always more of a Christmas guy and a 4th of July guy. And I was never really a Thanksgiving person. The house is hot. I had to wear a sweater as a kid. I hated it. But
you guys dress up for the food?
Yeah, I mean,
we don't do that.
now everybody, it's fun, and I get to see my kids, and it's just a bunch of food, and I got a chef in the family now.
They tried to get rid of Thanksgiving last year.
Who did?
It just everyone. There was like a big push to
Really?
just kind of skip over Thanksgiving.
On Twitter?
Everywhere. It was like all the Christmas songs were everywhere, Christmas decorations. It's just like, hello, what happened to Thanksgiving?
Well, Twitter tried to get rid of me years ago, and I'm still here.
Hey, survivors, you and Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Coming up in 15 minutes, 3-time Super Bowl champ Ty Law stops by. Later in Best for Last, Patrick Mahomes was not the losing quarterback last night. We'll tell you the losing quarterbacks last night. So we all saw an incredible showcase last night between the Rams and Chiefs. But it could have been completely chaotic. The teams had to move. The security had to move. The broadcast networks had to move. The teams had to figure out where to stay. They hadn't booked rooms. And for those two teams, in all that mess, to come together last night and give us that tip of the cap to the Hunt family, Andy Reid and the Chiefs. Tip of the cap to Les Snead, Stan Kroenke, the Rams organization, Sean McVay. That was unbelievable. I mean, good God, fans, security, hotels, teams, training, practices, networks. They got you know what that was last night? That was your wife coming to you and saying, that huge Thanksgiving party in 2 days on Thursday? Yeah. Like 45 cousins at your brother's house? Yeah. It's at our house. What? We don't have the space. It's at our house. We don't have the rooms. It's at our house. We don't have the food. It's at our house. What happened? Their dishwasher broke. Their kitchen got flooded. It's at our house. But what? And you turn to your wife and you say, order some champagne, honey. Let's just have a good time. Last night, that was just a good time. When you got to throw a party together and 90,000 people are going to be there, or however many were, and you don't have time to get out all the wrinkles, you just have a good time. It was what every great game is. There was some weird clock management by Sean McVay. What was he doing? A 28-second drive? Take a knee, bro. There was some officiating calls you didn't love. There was strange decisions by Patrick Mahomes late. There was stars making star plays. There was Tyreek Hill twice, a punt, a kickoff. What are you doing? What are you doing returning those? It was everything a great game is. It's never clean. Every great fight I've been to, every great NFL game I've been to, every great Final Four game, there's always a clock management issue. There's always a tip pass or a call you don't like. There's always a star being a star and a star doing a knucklehead thing. Calling the officiating, what about it? Kansas City wasn't ready to play in the first 8 minutes. They had a lot of penalties. That's not on the officials. What about the tip pass? What about it? They let the play go, then they reversed it. They got it right. What about the Rams offensive lineman that moved? Guess what? You have a fireworks show for 4 hours. Sometimes one of those fireworks goes off into the tree, starts a little fire. It's not perfect. Last night was not built to be perfect. It was your wife coming to you and saying, we got to host 48 people in your little 2,200 square foot house for a Thanksgiving party and not that much yard to play with. And you just turn to your wife and say, let's just have a good time. And the league just said, we're going to bring some refs in. We're going to do the best we can. We're not really prepared for it. The game was scheduled for Mexico City. Now it's in Los Angeles. L.A. is going through fires. What this city in L.A. is going through is remarkable that they could put it together. It was great. Well, what about the defense? What about it? There were 3 defensive touchdowns. The Rams created 5 turnovers from Kansas City's offense. Both quarterbacks took an absolute beating last night. I mean, there were some shots on those quarterbacks. That was 4 hours of fun. That was 4 hours of champagne. Yeah, some spilled on the carpet. Yeah, one of the cousins got a little too drunk. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Somebody may have stolen some silverware. It was not perfect. But that game was not built to be perfect. It was built to be fun, and it was, and it's remarkable. And Kansas City's owners and their GMs and their front office and their coaches, tip of the cap. And for the Rams, tip of the cap. First ever game, both teams over 50. Third most points in an NFL game. You had how many total yards? 14 combined touchdowns. I loved it. Let me say this, though. I've watched the Kansas City Chiefs twice this year. Go to New England and lose. And go to the Rams and lose. And in both instances, my takeaway is, I think Kansas City's better than New England and the Rams. This morning, I think Kansas City's the better team. Let me ask you, if the Rams had played in Kansas City and had 5 turnovers, you think the Chiefs only win by 3? Listen, Kansas City, to only lose like they did, think about this. They weren't dialed in. I mean, you could tell from all the travel, the first 8 minutes of the game, they had a bad first quarter. It happens. They got a young team, young quarterback. They were bad for about 8 minutes. They were on the road, and not on the road destination they were supposed to be in. They had 5 turnovers, 2 defensive touchdowns. They dropped the game-winning interception, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm like, they're in this game with a chance to win. I think if you'd asked the Rams to move, play it in Kansas City, had all those turnovers, had a bad first quarter, I don't think the Rams would have been around at the end. I mean, listen, man, Kansas City had the ball twice. All they were away was a field goal. Considering all the moves, all the turnovers, awful first quarter, dropped the game-winning pick, and Kansas City standing around at the end, I think Kansas City's a better team. And I felt that way after the New England game. I'm like, yeah, I get why New England won. It's Foxborough. It's Brady. He's been there before. They get the ball. I get why New England won. But I feel like Kansas City in the playoffs could go to New England and win. I feel there's no chance for New England to go to Kansas City and win. In fact, my takeaway last night was I can see several teams in the NFC coming to Los Angeles like a New Orleans Saints and winning. I can see it. I can see that happening. They get that running game going. I can't see anybody in the AFC. Pittsburgh would have a shot, but they make so many mistakes, it's hard to go on the road, throw 3 picks, and win. You think Texans going to go on the road and win in Kansas City? New England? Indianapolis, if they get in? Baltimore, they get in? Chargers? I mean, it's funny because we think of the Rams' offense as home run hitting, but their defense is home run hitting. I mean, Aaron Donald, Marcus Peters, it's interceptions, it's sacks, it's forced turnovers, it's big hits. But when I watch the Rams play, man, do they swing and miss a lot on defense. A lot. It's like the Chiefs' touchdowns, there were people wide open. I mean, this is classic Rams defense.
The Chiefs down 10. Play action fake. Bootleg throwback attempt. Throwing long. Tyreek Hill's wide open at the 20, 15, 10, 5. Nobody is within the boundaries of California. And now a flag is thrown as the touchdown is completed. The Chiefs go 73 yards in one play.
That's a lot of Ram stuff. It's a lot of big plays. It's a lot of home runs. But, man, on defense, they swing and miss all the time. I feel this morning, Chiefs are the better team. Yeah, it's. I will say this about Mahomes, and Joy and I talked about this earlier. He is very much Favre. And I do think, Chris Carter once told me this, when you have a gift, it's biblical. You look at Westbrook, you look at Cam, you look at Mahomes, you look at Favre. When you're that gifted, it's hard to be as precise. Drew Brees is undersized. Doesn't have a cannon arm. He's precise. Tom Brady, not a great athlete, not great size, not a huge arm. He's precise. Westbrook and Cam and Mahomes and Favre. When you're that gifted, it's just reality. You rely on your arm to get you out of places. John Elway, Joe Namath, Terry Bradshaw threw a lot of picks. Why? Because they had a classic arm. Brett Favre talks about it all the time. Sometimes he'd say, I just knew I could squeeze it in there. Alex Smith never tried to squeeze it in there. So with Mahomes, it's the burden of talent. When you're as athletic as Westbrook, you don't develop a great jumper. you know, when you look at the great shooters in NBA history, Steve Kerr, they were not guys elevating over the rim. Reggie Miller was a great shooter, wasn't a world-class athlete. People think his sister, Cheryl, was the way better athlete. So I do watch Mahomes and think he's going to be Favre. You're going to fall in love with him. Going to drive you crazy. Going to have him on your fantasy teams. Going to win multiple MVPs. Probably win a Super Bowl. But you're going to throw your drink at the TV in Kansas City 20 times over the next decade because he'll drive you crazy. Ty Law, 3 rings, former Patriot, joining us in studio next. Listen, when the weather gets colder, and even where I live in L.A., it's getting chilly. Sometimes struggle to get out of bed in the morning while staying under the covers. I get it.